Hello everyone and welcome back to another DLC. I am your host today, Joey Fitz, and today we are talking about an indie game called Hellclock. It's a Rogue Elite ARPG from Rogue Snail. And before we get into the episode, a big thanks to our friends over at Game.Press and Rogue Snail for sending over the free review copy. We appreciate the access. Now, I'll be honest with this one off the bat. This one started off very strong. I was really into it at first, but the deeper I went, the more it started to fall apart for me. Let's get into the review. Hellclock is set in an alternate history version of 1896 Brazil during the War of Canudos, which, to the game's credit, is really unique. It's an underused setting, and you play as Parehu, a clockmaster gunslinger who's fighting through hell to rescue his mentor. It's a brilliant premise. The comic book style visuals look bold and stylized, and right out the gate, the tone feels really fresh and really different. A strong first impression is very important, but you need to follow that up. The setting and the lore are pretty cool. I actually like learning a bit about a historical event that it's based on. The voice acting and art design do a pretty solid job of building the world. It held my interest early on. But once you get past the opening area, the story kind of takes a bit of a backseat. It becomes more about pushing through randomized levels with little narrative progression, and I found myself losing interest pretty quickly. It felt like the story and world were all just set dressing after a little while, and not really something that the game wanted to explore deeply. So, the big mechanic here with Hellclock itself: when you start a run, a timer starts ticking down, and if you don't reach the boss before that time runs out, you die. Early on, that mechanic is thrilling. It makes the gameplay feel fast-paced and adrenaline-fueled. It forces you to keep moving, make decisions really quickly, and creates a massive sense of urgency. But after a few runs, it started feeling a little bit more frustrating than fun. The balance felt quite off. In the early stages, the clock punishes you really hard as you try and explore or experiment with builds. You feel rushed a lot of the time, but once you get some good relics and figure out some strong combos, that pressure just dissipates. I went from feeling overwhelmed to completely overpowered in the space of one level. And the difficulty curve isn't really a curve, it just kind of falls off a cliff. Combat itself is okay, it's fast, it's nothing too flashy. At the end of the day, it's nothing you haven't seen before. You shoot, you dash, you use abilities, pick up relics. There's decent variety of gear and skills, but again, the balancing gets a little bit messy. Either enemies sponge up your damage, or you absolutely melt everything with the right build. Now, I should say that there are a few difficulty modes in Hellclock. The relax mode removes the timer. Hardcore mode deletes your save file if you die, and that's really nice in theory, but it doesn't fix the core problem. Relax mode drains any tension. Hardcore mode is so punishing that I imagine it's only fun if you're a masochist. The endgame ascension mode unlocks when you beat it. I never actually got to that point because the mid to late game felt a little bit more like a procession than a game. There's a progression system where you collect soul stones and spend them on permanent upgrade. That stuff works great. I really enjoyed unlocking new relics and skills. But the same issue rises again. Early runs, the game feels unfairly tough, and later runs feel trivial once you get a good build and that snowballs and you build upon it. It feels like the game doesn't keep up with your power appropriately. Inventory management is a little bit clunky too. You've limited relic slots, so you have to make decisions about what to keep and what to get rid of, which could be really interesting. But honestly, like I said, once you find the build that works for you, I didn't see much reason to deviate from that. The game ran fine for me. I didn't experience any bugs, no crashes, really good frame rate. From a technical standpoint, it's really stable. A few UI quirks, and sometimes the enemy AI was a little bit janky, but nothing game breaking. It looks good, it sounds good, and it runs smoothly. So there's a few things that work and a few things that don't. The things that work are their unique setting and a really strong visual identity. The timer mechanic is a really interesting idea, and there's really solid voice acting within the game. Unfortunately, the things that don't work, the difficulty balance swings wildly. It's punishing very early on and too easy later in the game. The gameplay loop gets a little bit stale after a while. The story and world building don't evolve as much as I would have liked past the introduction, and the builds feel really too weak or broken. There isn't enough middle ground. So my final thoughts are, Hellclock isn't a bad game. It's one that it feels like needs more time to develop. There's a really cool concept here, and I still think the setting and art style deserves loads of praise. Unfortunately, the core gameplay loop didn't hold up for me, and what started out feeling tense and exciting became repetitive and unbalanced the longer I play. If you're a hardcore roguelite fan and don't mind a steep learning curve followed by steamrolling enemies, you may enjoy this. But if you're looking for tight, well-tuned gameplay or long-term replayability, for now, this game might not be it. And I say for now because I've checked the Steam page and the updates and messages from the developer. I'm not the only one that has felt these problems, and Rogue Snail has reached out on the Steam page to say that they're working on major updates, improving progression, improving the endgame, and they seem to be really receptive to the feedback that the community has given, which is always a really great sign for a developer of an indie game. So, who knows, maybe I'll come back to Hellclock in 6 months' time, but until then, I just wanted to thank GamePress and Rogue Snail for the review copy. I really appreciated the chance to check the game out, and if you played Hellclock, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I've been Joey Fizz, this was your latest episode of DLC, and take care of yourself. See you next time.